I cheated, got pregnant, unsure of the father. Husband filed for divorce and left. Are the girls ready yet? I asked my ex-wife rudely as I stood at her door, which used to be our door, to pick up my 13 and 12-year-old daughters for the weekend. Almost. How are you, Sam? Pauline asked, sounding almost genuinely concerned. I only get 2 days off a month. Make sure they're ready on time, I growled, ignoring her question. I'm trying, Sam, but you know how it is with them. Can you give them a few extra minutes? So are you doing okay? I'll wait in the car, I snapped, turning around and heading back to my car. Sam, I heard her say as I walked away. I didn't turn around. This was a familiar scene, her trying to ease her conscience and me ignoring her. About 5 minutes later, Karen, 13, and Wendy, 12, came out with a small bag. They jumped into my car with a chorus of "Sorry, Daddy," and my anger faded. Pauline was right. Getting girls that age ready was like herding cats, and I couldn't stay mad since I only had them for a couple of days. I tried to make those days special, avoiding everyday hassles. After catching me up on the last couple of weeks, I was ready to tell them the big news. They had been asking for a new Nintendo, and I could finally afford it. I was excited to share this with them, but when I did, I was disappointed by their reaction. "Oh, it's okay, Daddy," Karen said. "Daddy Dave already bought us a new toy and a bunch of games." My disappointment turned to outrage. Daddy Dave? Goddamn Daddy Dave. If I felt on edge before, I was teetering now. Let me clarify. Dave had been my best friend since high school. He was a regular guy, more successful in business than in love. He wasn't into gambling or womanizing. He simply hadn't found the right woman. My kids called him Uncle Dave, and we trusted him like family. Pauline's closest friend was Aunt Daphne. Our marriage seemed solid. We still spent plenty of time together. Then, one Friday, Pauline dropped a bombshell. The kids were staying elsewhere for the weekend. I assumed she had planned a romantic getaway for us, but no. She revealed that she and Dave had fallen in love, and I received divorce papers the next day. She claimed they hadn't consummated their relationship, something I doubted and didn't care about. She spent that night with Dave and asked me to leave. I refused. I was unaware of a court order evicting me from the house. There were no misuse allegations, just a judge granting her temporary custody in the house, forcing me out. I didn't contest the divorce but made extreme demands, full custody and 75% of her income in alimony. Eventually, I grew weary of the battle and relented. I didn't pay child support due to our similar incomes, but it strained my finances. I lived frugally to afford things like a video game system for my daughters. Despite Pauline's attempts at civility, I harbored resentment. She got everything, a wealthy new husband, while I struggled with minimal time with the kids. With Dave's higher income and my alimony, they lived comfortably while I barely made ends meet. 2 months post-divorce, Pauline and Dave tied the knot. The biggest challenge was how the kids would react. I anticipated pushback or defiance, but they embraced it. Dave had been a fixture in their lives, so his presence wasn't confusing. They were pleased with 2 households. Since their wedding, I communicated only about the kids, offering no pleasantries. Now my children referred to Dave as Daddy. I tried to brush it off during the weekend, but as I dropped them off, I simmered with anger. After kissing them goodbye, they dashed inside, likely eager to try the new games Pauline had prepared. "I need to talk to you," I said, and Pauline's reaction showed she sensed my threatening tone. I turned and walked away from the house, and she followed. "What's wrong, Sam?" "Explain this Daddy Dave crap. They have one dad, me, so what's that about?" The girls wanted to call him something other than Uncle Dave since we got married. Calling him Uncle felt awkward. We tried just Dave, but that seemed weird, so we settled on Daddy Dave. And who suggested that? I did, but the girls liked it and agreed right away. I told them you might not like it, but they thought you could handle it. Please don't make this a bigger deal. It's not for you to decide how it should be. Hearing them call someone else Daddy, especially that idiot, is painful. He didn't steal your family. And about the video games, we just thought they'd waited long enough and weren't sure when you could do it. We wanted the girls to have them. Yeah, and show me up in the process, huh? Sure, let's show how great Daddy Dave is and what a loser their real dad is. You left me, married a rich guy, and now have all this money while I struggle. But you can buy them anything they want. It's not like that. It is exactly like that. God, you cow. I turned, walked back to the car, and sped away without looking back. I was so angry, the thought of a life sentence for destroying Daddy Dave wasn't on my bucket list. This went on for years. Pauline and Dave expected my anger to soften, but it didn't. They tried to talk to me about my life and hoped I'd move on, but I ignored anything not related to my girls. I hadn't had any serious relationships since the divorce. Money was tight. I distrusted women, and I was still furious. I stuck to one-night stands with no long-term prospects. Bitter, angry, and poor doesn't attract women. Counseling never crossed my mind. The last straw was the first weekend of June. School had just ended, and I was looking forward to a summer weekend with my girls. Karen, now 15, was mature and responsible, and Wendy was 14. I still cherished every moment with them. "Are the girls ready yet?" I asked, as Pauline opened the door, repeating the same exchange we'd had for years. "They're not here, Sam," Pauline said, looking confused. "What do you mean they're not here?" I almost exploded. "They went to the beach with Finley for a week." "They sent you a letter a week ago." "Yes, and I replied that it was my weekend and I'd be there to pick them up." "Did you let them go?" "Of course, it's not my place to stop them." "Why miss the opportunity to screw things up more?" "Tell them I'll be here to talk when they get back," I said, walking away again. That week went by in a blur. I was angry, hurt, and frustrated. I only got 4 days a month with my daughters, and I didn't want to lose any of that time. If only I had known. I returned the following Friday night to talk about them going out of town against my wishes. Since the divorce, I had only stopped by the house a few times, always at the girls' request. This time I stepped into the living room with Pauline and Dave watching from the kitchen. The girls were waiting for me, and I struggled to keep my composure. "Mom said you wanted to talk about our trip with Finley this week," Karen began. "We sent you a letter." I emailed back that it was my weekend and I expected you to be here. "Dad, we wanted to go." I didn't ask for permission. "What?" I nearly screamed. "You're not even 16. You need your parents' approval." I got Mom's permission. She said we could go if I coordinated with you. "And you thought a letter was enough?" "Dad, I'm 15. We're not little kids anymore. We want to do things with our friends. I thought you'd understand." "Are you saying you'd rather be with your friends than with me?" "Dad, we're growing up and want to spend time with friends. I can't plan my life around your custody schedule. We have plans almost every weekend, pool parties, trips to the beach. We're hardly home." It hit me that my daughters preferred their friends over spending time with me. It was like a knife to my heart. My anger turned to sadness, realizing this part of my life was over. I tried to hide my pain. "Okay, so you want to give up weekend visits?" I thought I heard Pauline sigh, but the girls didn't react. "We're just really busy, Dad. That doesn't mean we don't love you." 4 days a month, and they couldn't even manage that. The rest of the time, they had Mom and Daddy Dave. There was no room for me anymore. I didn't expect my fatherhood to end when the girls became teenagers, but it did. "Sure, girls. We'll get the visits over with. Have fun." They hugged me and thanked me, then ran to their rooms. They had no idea what they'd done to me. My place in their lives was gone. I stood up and headed for the door. Pauline approached me. "Are you okay, Sam?" I tried to pull myself together, but I'm sure I failed. "Yeah, it's fine. I have opportunities I've been putting off. A buddy in North Carolina has been trying to get me out there for years." I headed for the exit, and Pauline quickly realized my words. "Wait, Sam, you didn't say you were moving to North Carolina, did you?" "Yes, why not? They haven't needed me for years, thanks to you. Now they don't need me at all. This is the end result of what you set in motion, Pauline. There's nothing here for me anymore. You and Dave are their parents now. I'm out. Congratulations, you win." Tears filled my eyes. I needed to leave before I broke down. I quickly walked out and got into my car. It took me a moment to get the key into the lock. Maybe it was the tears that made it difficult. "Sam, wait," Dave called out, placing a hand on my shoulder. I didn't respond. I just turned and punched him in the jaw, knocking him down but not out. Pauline rushed to him while I fumbled with my keys. "Sam, don't do this. They're just at that age. They still love and need you, even if they don't realize it now. Leaving will devastate them." "What do you want me to do, Paulie? Sit in my crappy one-bedroom apartment hoping they'll make time for me or be their backup plan if there's nothing else to do?" "It won't be like that, Sam." "Of course it will. You heard them. All I looked forward to was their visits. Now that's gone."
"And you're breaking their hearts."
"I doubt it, but at least I won't be the only one heartbroken anymore." They were relieved they didn't have to visit me. Or honestly, they won't even notice I'm gone, at least for a while.
"Sam, please don't do this. I never wanted this."
Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't matter. Maybe I'll see you again someday. I finally unlocked the car door. Dave got to his feet, both of them looking mournful. I got into the car and paused before closing the door. "Take care of my girls." They nodded slightly as I drove away. I hoped they wouldn't tell the girls. I didn't want them visiting out of pity or obligation. It was time to go our separate ways. Breaking up a family is like losing cherished dreams. Pauline and I envisioned growing old together with visits from children and grandchildren. The end of my marriage shattered those dreams. I still hoped for future milestones like graduations and weddings, but they now felt distant. Maybe someday I'd reunite with the girls, but it felt like the end. I called my friend Tim, who offered me a job. The pay was better, and I'd continue paying child support, even though they didn't need it. I wanted to fulfill my obligations without the pain of being physically distant. I had my apartment lease terminated, packed my car, and drove to Durham. Tim set me up in his home services business, where I did repairs and pest control. Nights were tough, and I turned to drinking to cope. Tim's parties became a distraction, but my sadness lingered, especially since I hadn't heard from my daughters in weeks. My booze consumption increased, often leaving me intoxicated. I didn't form emotional connections with the women I met. At these parties, I was merely seeking familiarity. The routine persisted: drink, find a partner, pass out, and they'd leave by morning. Tim would provide breakfast, and I'd return home feeling miserable. Over time, I began forgetting my partner's names. The woman from Labor Day was unmemorable, and on Halloween, I couldn't even recognize her costume. Tim hosted a Veterans Day party shortly after Halloween, which everyone enjoyed. Thanksgiving approached, but without my daughters, and I drank heavily. Before Thanksgiving, I finally heard from my girls, but it wasn't the reunion I anticipated. Karen called to suggest skipping our visit to go shopping with Finley. Still unaware of my relocation, I didn't mention it and wished them a good time. Thanksgiving was lonely. I drank alone in my hotel room. Though Tim invited me over, I couldn't bear being around non-family. The next morning, I found several missed calls and texts, including a cheerful Thanksgiving message from my daughters and a voicemail from Pauline, which I reluctantly listened to. "Sam, it's Pauline. I know we haven't talked because I assumed that's what you wanted, but the holidays can be hard, so I wanted to check on you. The girls called you, but they don't realize you've moved. Please remember they're still kids and very busy. They love you very much. I know you don't want to talk to me, but please let me know you're okay. An email or text is fine. I'm sorry for how things turned out. Please let me know you're okay." I deleted all messages and emails, then quickly texted Pauline to let her know I was alive, though not okay. I didn't want to, but it was easier than ignoring her. Feeling down, I grabbed another beer. For weeks, I was either working, drinking, or passed out. As Christmas and New Year's approached, I felt even more depressed, knowing I'd celebrate without my girls for the first time. Finally, I got the call I'd been dreading. My daughters called about Christmas plans. We alternated holidays since the divorce, and this year I had Christmas Eve. They left a message to confirm. I took a couple of days to gather myself before calling back, but then Pauline called and left a voicemail, clearly annoyed. "Sam, it's Pauline. I hope you missed the girls' message and didn't ignore it. I told them you moved, and they're hurt. They always thought they could see you whenever, and now they know that's not the case. I hope you're proud of hurting them. I don't trust you with them right now. You seem intent on punishing them for my actions. I was going to suggest they fly to you, but I'm not comfortable with that anymore. Please think about what you're doing. Don't ruin your relationship with them because you're mad at me. Call me if you want to talk. Merry Christmas, Sam." "Goddamn cow," I muttered to myself. I had a few more beers and called her back. "Sam, you goddamn cow," I slurred. "Who do you think you are? You can't threaten me about seeing my kids when I can't see them anyway. Sam, are you drunk?" "Yeah, pretty much." "You shouldn't drink so much, Sam. It's bad for you." "What's it to you? You've taken everything I lived for. What do you care?" "Do I care about you, Sam?" "Yeah, you showed how much you cared by cheating on me and leaving me. You let the kids leave me too." "I didn't do that, Pauline. You sent them away on my weekend so they'd never see me." "You're a lying, manipulative, cheating strumpet." She took a deep breath. "Sam, I know you're drunk and angry. Let's talk when you've had less to drink. Who are you to judge me? You're the cheater. I'm hanging up with my best friend, kicking me out, draining me, then judging me." "You've got a nerve, Pauline." "Pauline?" She hung up. "Damn cow." I spent Christmas alone, mostly lying in bed. I watched sports on TV, but every reminder of Christmas made me more depressed, leading to more drinking. I woke up during the Lakers game, either asleep or passed out, smiled as they lost by 20 points, and passed out again. Working for Tim's service company, we didn't get much time off. We had a contract to repair a house destroyed by its owners after foreclosure. Several of us, including plumbers and electricians, worked together. I helped with drywall, and it was a fun couple of days. These guys were funny and friendly, unlike the aloofness I'd felt from others before. Maybe it was because Tim and I were friends before I started working there, but these guys made me feel welcome. Around mid-morning, I saw Tim's truck pull up. He got out with another guy I recognized but couldn't name. They entered the house, greeted the crew, and headed toward me. "Hey Sam, can I talk to you for a minute?" Sure, Tim. I always have time for the guy who signs my checks. The crew laughed, but Tim only smiled faintly. Let's go outside, Tim said, leading the way. The other guy stepped aside to give us privacy. How's it going, Sam? As good as could be expected, I replied, curious about the direction of this conversation. Have you had anything to drink today? No, Tim, of course not. Great, blow into this, he said, pulling out a breathalyzer. I eyed it warily. What's that for? Just need to be sure. I glanced back at my CO workers who quickly looked away. It was clear someone had reported me. Hesitantly, I admitted, I might have had a beer this morning. That's not too bad, he said, still holding out the breathalyzer. Realizing I had no choice, I blew into it. Tim checked the reading and his smile vanished. You failed, 0.04. That's more than just a beer this morning. Yeah, but I'm not legally drunk. That's for driving. On a construction site, if OSHA checks and finds you under the influence, it's a problem for me and a liability if someone gets hurt. Tim, I'm fine. What you do at home is your business, but here it affects us all. I want your keys. One perk of the job was using company cars. I handed over the keys. You're done for the day. Oscar will take you home and cover for you tomorrow. Come to my office and we'll talk. I stood there, humiliated and growing angry. You know what, Tim? I said, shoving my helmet at him. Screw you, I don't need this. I walked to the truck and waited for Oscar to take me home. We drove in silence except for my mumbled directions. When we arrived, I thanked him and slammed the door. Holy crap, I fumed. One of those idiots must have called Tim, screw them. I opened the fridge and grabbed a beer. Perfect, I thought. No work tomorrow. I woke up in a hospital room, unsure how I got there. A nurse entered. Good, you're awake. What's wrong? I asked. The doctor will be here soon. She checked my vitals and left. A few minutes later, a young, attractive Hispanic female doctor entered, reviewing my chart. Good afternoon, Mr. Beckman. How are you feeling? I didn't answer right away, trying to process how the beautiful woman in front of me was named Anderson. Mr. Beckman? I'm sorry. Based on your last name, I expected an older white guy, not a young, pretty woman. Thank you. My husband is a white guy, hence the name. So, how are you feeling? Really tired and kind of unimportant. What's wrong with me? You've consumed a large amount of alcohol over a long time, leading to alcohol poisoning and severe dehydration. If your friend hadn't called an ambulance, you might not have survived. A friend? She glanced at her papers. Tim Banks called the ambulance. Sure. Mr. Banks asked me to notify him when you're awake. Is that okay? I reluctantly nodded. Yeah, it's okay. You'll stay here for observation for a couple of days as your body detoxifies. Complications might require immediate intervention. Any questions? No, I don't think so. After giving instructions to rest, Dr. Anderson left. I turned on the TV for background noise and tried to relax. I felt fine, doubting I'd need a couple of days, but who was I to argue with a pretty doctor? About an hour later, there was a knock on the door and it opened slightly. I heard a man's voice. Are you dressed, Sam? Yes. Tim entered with his usual calm manner and stopped a few feet from the bed. How's it going? I'm going to live. I haven't decided if that's good or bad yet, I said with a half smile. I suppose a thank you wouldn't hurt. You don't have to, Sam. You can thank me by getting well and getting back to work. I didn't think I still had a job. You think you're the first employee to tell me to back off? We've been friends for a long time, and I'm doing everything I can to help you through this. I don't agree with all your decisions, but my advice is to get off your back, get your crap together, and rebuild your relationship with your kids. Don't let what? Pauline did ruin your life. I acknowledged he was correct. I was only injuring myself, perhaps the girls too. It was time to get my act together. Tim and I talked a while longer before he departed. Later that evening, I felt worse. The doctor attributed it to my body adjusting to sobriety. After about 24 hours without alcohol, I realized how dismal that sounded. Despite surviving the night, I checked out of the hospital the next day with referrals for counseling, psychiatry, rehab, and AA. Though I felt I had hit rock bottom and didn't need them, Tim's encouragement and my hospital stay were sufficient to set me on the right path. I took a few weeks off work, which I could afford, and returned feeling optimistic. The subsequent months were uneventful. I enjoyed Tim's Martin Luther King Jr. Day party without drinking, hesitant to test if I was an alcoholic. I intended to resume drinking eventually, but stuck to non-alcoholic beverages for the time being. The monthly gatherings grew dull. They initially offered socializing opportunities, but I found drunken, anonymous revelry unfulfilling. Thus, I skipped the Valentine's Day party and opted for a hearty steak dinner instead. On March 1st, my life took a turn. While out running errands one Saturday, I witnessed a woman with dark blonde curls stumble and injure her ankle on the sidewalk. Though others nearby ignored her, I hurried over to assist. "Are you okay?" I asked, knowing it was a silly question. Tears formed in her pale blue eyes as she looked up. "I think I sprained my ankle. We need to get you to the trauma center. I can call an ambulance or I can drive you myself if you prefer." "I don't want to impose." "It's no imposition, you just made my day more interesting." "I'm Sam, by the way." "Okay, if you're sure. Nice to meet you, Sam. I'm Hall." I helped her up and noticed she was pregnant. "Oh yes, about 4 months," she confirmed. "Then let's hurry." I picked her up, carried her to my truck, and drove to the emergency room. Inside, I got a wheelchair for Holly and helped her into it. She was taken straight to a room, and I waited in the lobby for 4 hours, playing games and browsing the web on my phone. I expected she would call her husband and I could leave, but no one came. Eventually, Holly came out in a wheelchair, pushed by a nurse in light blue scrubs. Holly was talking about getting a cab, but the nurse seemed to know I was waiting. When Holly saw me, she smiled brightly. The nurse nudged her towards me, and I helped her into my truck. I thanked the nurse, even though she had already turned away, and then got into the driver's seat. "I didn't expect you to still be here." "I was waiting for your husband, but when no one came, I stayed." "I don't have a husband. It's just me and my mom, and she's out of town." "Did you call her?" "She'd just worry and rush back." "I'll be fine. Since you've been waiting so long, could you give me a ride to my car?" I looked at her bandaged ankle. "Holly, I don't think you can drive with that ankle." "Oh, Sam, I didn't even think of that." "Let me take you to my house and we'll figure out how to get your car." "That's very generous, Sam, but I've already taken up a lot of your time." "I enjoy it. It's more interesting than sitting at home watching TV. I'd be happy to keep helping if you don't mind." "Thanks, Sam." She gave me directions to her house. I carried Holly from the truck into her home. As I headed toward the couch, she stopped me. "Sam, I really need the restroom. Do you mind?" I followed her directions and placed her in front of the restroom, waiting nearby. I ordered an Uber while I waited. She called out and I found her up and dressed. I carried her to the couch. "What now?" she asked. "I need to pick up your car." "It's illegal to park there overnight." "How are you going to do that?" "I ordered an Uber to get it. Can I borrow your keys?" "You've done so much for me, but I appreciate it." She handed me the keys, giving me the license plate number and parking spot. As I waited for my ride, I stopped at the doorstep. "Holly, will you have dinner with me tonight?" "I'd love to, Sam," she smiled, "but I can't go anywhere. I'll grab something while picking up your car, and we'll eat here." I was about to leave when she spoke softly. "Sam," I turned to her, seeing a serious expression. "You remember I'm pregnant, right?" "Yes, Holly, I remember. It's just that many men aren't interested in an instant family. I wanted to make sure you knew." "Of course, we just met, and there's a lot to learn about each other, but your pregnancy isn't a problem." "Okay, Sam, I just wanted to be sure you understand." "I understand," I said with a smile. "I'll be back with your car and dinner." I waited for my Uber, which arrived about 10 minutes later. The ride was uneventful, and I found her car easily. I picked up Italian food nearby and returned to Holly's house around 7 p.m. She had changed into a dress. I wanted to look nice for our first date. "You looked great before, but you still look better," I said. She smiled as I set the food on the table. By the time I came back, she was on her feet with crutches. I moved to help her, but she stopped me. "I need to practice. Mom won't be home for a few days." I motioned her to a chair and she sat down, smelling of freshly applied perfume. "You look and smell wonderful, Holly. I suddenly feel underdressed." "Oh, you look fine. I don't like men who are too formal." We chatted about everything. I told her about my job at Tim's company, Durham Commercial Services, and she shared about her part-time job at a local car dealership. Her mom worked as a legal secretary. Holly's father left when she was 5, and she hasn't seen him since. She was an only child. I told her about my failed marriage. She was shocked by what Pauline had done, but didn't seem pleased with my handling of the Karen and Wendy situation. Saying it out loud, I realized I wasn't pleased with myself either. Pauline was right. They were just acting like teenagers, and I needed to act like an adult. I had to figure out how to fix it. I purposely refrained from asking Holly about her 4-month pregnancy sans a partner. It wasn't my place, and I aimed to avoid any appearance of judgment. Stepping outside to give her privacy during her call with her mother, I admired the serene night, pondering over Holly's situation. Since my divorce, I hadn't pursued a long-term relationship, but perhaps it was time to reconsider. Did I want to be perpetually alone due to my ex's infidelity? Addressing the emotions stemming from my past marriage was imperative. After her call, Holly signaled for me to return inside, expressing gratitude for the privacy. We spent the evening chatting on the couch, deliberately avoiding the topic of her pregnancy. As the night progressed, our yawns hinted it was time to retire. Accompanied by her crutches, she escorted me to the door, where we shared a brief kiss and made plans for Sunday. Driving home, I felt elated, and I slept soundly. The next morning, I arrived at Holly's with breakfast from a nearby cafe. Knocking on the door, I waited as she answered, clearly just rising from bed. "Do you really get up this early every morning?" she asked, squinting and smiling. "Construction starts early. I've been waiting for a decent hour." "Well, you brought breakfast, so you're forgiven." We shared another brief kiss, and I made breakfast while she settled into a chair. She loved the food, as I knew she would. I suggested we spend the day exploring the countryside since I hadn't seen much of North Carolina apart from work and Tim's parties. It was a beautiful day, and we had a great time. We visited a museum that had motorized carts, so Holly didn't have to walk much. We had lunch at a small local diner and spent hours relaxing in a park. Holly often made light physical contact with me, which felt nice. By the time we got back to her place, she was very tired and her leg hurt. I helped her take a bath, covering the brace with plastic, and then helped her into bed. We agreed I would come over after work the next evening. I brought tacos from a local taqueria, and we talked while I gave her a foot massage. She soon dozed off. I tucked her into bed and prepared to leave. As I was leaving, she sleepily thanked me for coming and mentioned that her mother was coming home the next day. I figured she was letting me know she wouldn't need my help as much once her mother returned. The next night, I was in my apartment, preparing to watch a World War II documentary and forcing myself to eat a frozen meal. What exactly is Salisbury steak? Then the phone rang. "Hello? Where are you?" Holly's sweet voice asked. "I'm home." "Why aren't you here? I thought you were coming." "I thought you didn't want me there since your mom was coming home." "You reminded me of that last night," I replied, feeling a bit embarrassed. "Men," she said, "I told you so you'd be ready to meet her. We've been waiting for you." "Okay, I'm on my way." Holly met me at the door with a lingering kiss and put her arms around my neck. I could get used to this, I thought. Inside, her mom, Barbara, was setting the dining table. They looked almost like twins, except Barbara's blonde curls were more groomed. She was fit and only slightly heavier than Holly. When I moved for a handshake, she hugged me tightly and kissed my cheek. "I'm so happy to meet you, Sam. Holly has told me so much about you." "It's my pleasure, Miss Allison." "Call me Barbara." And for the record, Allison is Holly's last name, not mine. Mine is Smith from my third husband. I don't plan on a fourth. Holly rolled her eyes at her mom's revelation, which was helpful since the food was ready. I washed my hands, and we sat down to eat. Barbara had made delicious stuffed pasta and garlic bread. "I'm sorry for the confusion, Barbara. I thought Holly meant I wasn't expected since you were coming home." "It's okay, Sam. Misunderstandings happen. I was just happy to meet Holly's new boyfriend." I glanced at Holly, who smiled at me. "She's told me quite a bit about you. I understand you're in construction." "I work for Durham Commercial Services. We handle construction, pest control, electrical, and plumbing. It's more home maintenance than construction. Do you like it?" "I like working with my hands. My boss hinted I might become a project manager soon." "What do you do?" "I'm a legal secretary, working directly with senior partners. I have a lot of late nights and travel. Thank you for taking care of Holly when she was injured." "It was my pleasure, Barbara. It's been a long time since I've had someone to care for." I felt a pang of sadness as memories of my girls surfaced. Holly and Barbara seemed to notice. We chatted throughout dinner, and I helped clean up. By the time we finished, it was late. Holly and Barbara said goodnight, and Barbara hugged me again before heading to bed. Holly asked me to turn off the lights while she watched a movie on Netflix. We lay down together on a deep couch, with me behind her. It was a romantic movie, but I focused on the beautiful woman in front of me. Soon we made love. The credits were rolling, and we lay happily together. Minutes passed, and we both drifted to sleep. I woke up about an hour later. "You should probably get going, you have work tomorrow." Holly broke the silence. I knew she was right, but I didn't want to leave. I was willing to get up early and go home before work if needed. We walked to the front door. "I'll see you tomorrow." As I drove away, I saw her still standing in the doorway, waving. Last night felt like an exploration to see how we fit together. I didn't want to leave again, so I brought a change of clothes for tomorrow just in case. I wouldn't mention it to Holly unless it came up. Barbara met me at the door, and I joined Holly on the couch. When Barbara called us to dinner, there were only 2 plates. Holly and I sat down, and Barbara excused herself, returning 30 minutes later looking ready for a night out. "If Holly didn't mention, I have a date tonight. I'll be back in the morning. Have a nice evening. I'd been at the construction site for a little over 2 weeks since Holly fell. We spent almost every night together, though some nights were just sleeping because I was overworking myself. Events repeated as Tim and Oscar drove up to the site together. I glanced around to see if anyone looked guilty of snitching on me, but nothing seemed unusual. I wasn't worried since I hadn't had a drink since the hospital, but I was annoyed at another attempt to snitch. Tim headed to the house where we were working, and Oscar waited by the truck. Tim praised the workers and then approached me. "Got a minute, Sam?" I nodded and followed him, expecting trouble. "No trouble, Sam. I was visiting sites and wanted to check in. You haven't been to the last couple of parties, which I get, and I just wanted to see how you're doing." "I'm doing great, Tim. I've started seeing someone." "That's great, Sam. Any luck with the kids?" "I'll need some time off to fly down and see them. Just let me know when and for how long, and I'll make sure you're covered. I'll check flights tonight and let you know." I flew out the following Tuesday, assuming the girls might not be home over the weekend. Hoping to keep them overnight, I splurged on a nicer hotel room with 2 double beds, determined to repair our relationship. As the plane flew through the clouds, I thought about Holly and our goodbye. She helped me book flights and pack. She was getting around better, but I still carried her up the stairs to my apartment, and for the first time we made love in my bed. We returned to her house when it was time for me to leave for the airport. She said goodbye at the door. "I'm going to miss you, Sam." "Yep, I love you." She looked worried as she said she loved me for the first time. She shouldn't have worried. I lifted her chin to look into her eyes. "I love you too, Hollywood. I'll be back as soon as I can." She smiled broadly, hugged me again, and then I left. The warm feeling stayed with me all the way to Austin. My flight landed in the afternoon. I grabbed a bite to eat, checked into the hotel, and bought a few things for my stay. I waited, knowing the girls would come home from school around 4:30. I assumed they still did homework until dinner, sticking with that assumption until I found out otherwise. I pulled up to the house in my rental car at 5:15. Pauline's Toyota and an old Nissan were in the driveway, but Dave's car was missing, likely still at work. No one came out as I walked up, so I knocked on the door. A voice called out, "Coming!" and Pauline appeared. She looked as beautiful as ever, but I realized I had no feelings for her anymore. She hugged me tightly, surprising me. "Sam, oh my God, you're back. The girls will love it," she said. "No, Pauline, I haven't moved back. I flew in to see the girls." She looked disappointed, likely for the girls' sake. "Oh, they're working on their homework. I'll get them."
Wait, Pauline, I need to tell you something first.
She closed the door and listened, looking alarmed. "I'm sorry for how I spoke to you on the phone." I was hurt and angry. "I said you were drunk," she added. "Yes, I was. I couldn't take care of myself, let alone the girls. You didn't deserve that, and I wanted to apologize." "Thank you, Sam. I appreciate it. It's been hard for everyone." "Are you here long?" "I'm flying out Sunday. I was hoping the girls could stay with me for a few days." "Why not for the whole time? I'll pack for them." "Thank you, Pauline. Can you come over tomorrow to talk after you take the girls to school?" "Or just us?" Taking a deep breath, I agreed. "Of course, Pauline." She smiled, pleased. "Okay, tomorrow then. I'll get the girls." A minute later, the girls came running out, tackling me with apologies and "I love you." We ended up on the lawn, with them piled on top of me. I stopped them to speak. "Girls, you don't need to apologize. What happened was my fault. I didn't handle it well." "But we could have been more careful," Wendy said. "You'd be giving teenagers a bad reputation," I joked. "Let's focus on moving forward. Your mom said you can stay with me until Sunday, so pack your bags." "But this weekend," one started. "Don't worry about this weekend," Pauline interrupted. "Go and get ready." The girls ran off and I asked Pauline, "This weekend?" "We were planning to take them to the lake, but this is more important." "Thank you, Pauline. I didn't mean to disrupt your plans." She nodded and went to check on the girls. I ensured my rental car had room for their bags, and soon we were on our way. At the hotel, we unpacked and went to Texas Roadhouse for dinner. I groaned when Karen ordered a salad, but Wendy made up for it by ordering a steak and baked potato. Sometimes you have to live a little. We spent the evening catching up. Karen had found a boyfriend named Rob, who was in several of her classes. She showed me a picture, and he seemed nice enough, though as a father, it's never easy to see your daughter with a boyfriend. After some time, I made them finish their homework while I relaxed online, feeling grateful that my past anger hadn't cost me my relationship with my daughters. They caught me looking at them a few times and we exchanged smiles, which was sweet. The next morning, I drove them to school and then headed to my old house to talk to Pauline. I didn't see the point since we were long divorced, but I agreed. Pauline opened the door as I arrived and offered me water. We sat at the kitchen table, the same place where she'd once told me she wanted a divorce. "Thanks for coming, Sam," she started. "Unless it's about the kids, I don't see the point," I replied. "Sam, it's been 4 years and we've never really talked. I know you were hurt and part of me still cared. I hoped your anger would fade, but it hasn't. Why? Has anything changed?" "No, nothing's changed. You still cheated on me." She tried to interrupt, but I stopped her. "Whether you had physical contact with him before or after serving me, you still cheated. You lied about where you were, spent time with him, and developed feelings that led to you leaving me. You destroyed our family and left me struggling, seeing the girls only 4 days a month while you got the majority of their time and financial stability. Sam, I didn't marry Dave for the money. We love each other and are happy."
"Good for you, but that doesn't help me."
"Why should I be happy just because you are? I wanted you to know I didn't divorce you to hurt you or for money. It just happened." "Great. I'm glad ruining my life didn't trouble you too much. See, you always twist things to make me seem evil. That's not what it's about. Whether you intended to or not, you knew it would happen. Divorce usually means the mother gets the kids and the father becomes part-time." I slammed my hand on the table. "It wouldn't have happened if you stayed true. You had to open yourself up to fall for Dave. All those times you spent together were a direct attack on our marriage and you did nothing to stop it. If you think we can be friends, you're wrong. I'll be polite when necessary, but that's it." "Sam, you're right. I'm sorry, I was wrong, but isn't there a way for you to forgive me even if you can't forget?" I tried to stay calm. "Pauline, because of you and that idiot, I lived like a broke college student for years, barely having enough to eat and living in a crappy apartment. I'm sorry, Sam, but how could I have known that? You didn't know because you chose not to know. You knew my income, where I lived, and the rent was on the website. You knew how much child support you were getting. It was simple math, Pauline, but you didn't care to find out what situation you left me in. You had your life and a new, wealthier husband. Who cared about me? The girls didn't say anything, so I figured you ignored it. I made sure my pantry and fridge were full when they visited. The rest of the time, I lived on ramen and mac and cheese, saving to take them out and buy that video game. You bought it anyway, like it was nothing. You know what? Screw civility. If we have to be in the same place, just stay away from me, Sam. Is there anything else you want to say?" "Pauline, this may be your last chance." "Sam, I'm sorry. I had no idea it was this bad. You're right. It never occurred to me to find out. I thought you'd say something. Yeah, having my wife leave me for my best friend wasn't humiliating enough. Let me tell them how hard I'm struggling financially." Pauline sighed, thinking. I wanted to leave but stayed to finish this. "Sam, you're right. I didn't see your perspective. It was easier for me not to know the truth. I felt guilty and assumed you were managing. There's no point in facts ruining your reality, is there? I guess it was naive to think we'd all be friends again. I guess so. But we have our daughters to raise. I'd like to work out visits over the summer and vacations." "Of course, Sam. I'll never keep them from you. As long as you're in a good place, we can work something out." Despite the unpleasant conversation, I was glad it was over. Now I knew Pauline's attempts to talk were just to ease her guilt. I picked up the girls from school, and we went to a mini golf course. We had a great time and then headed back to the hotel. They did homework while I ordered pizza. Over dinner, they asked me about my life in North Carolina. I apologized again for my past behavior, and they reassured me they were happy we were back together. They were also curious about Holly. "Geez, Dad," Wendy said, "you're almost done with us and now you're starting over? That's another 18 years. You know you're almost 40, right?" We laughed, and it was great to banter with them again. I think I remember that. With my advanced age, I might need a modified wheelchair to keep up with a young kid. We all burst into laughter. After dinner, they did more homework while I surfed the internet. I called Holly when they were asleep, and we caught up, expressing how much we missed each other. After we hung up, I went to bed. The rest of the visit was similar: dinner on Friday, bowling, and mini-golf on Saturday. We didn't have to worry about school, so I had an early flight on Sunday and wanted to spend as much time with them as possible. They didn't mind missing out on friends or the lake. On Sunday morning, I drove them home. At their insistence, I went inside to say goodbye to Pauline. I tried to be a good role model, but it took all my energy. I hadn't seen Dave, and I assumed he was avoiding me. The flight home was bittersweet. I missed my girls, but was glad everything went well. I really missed Holly and looked forward to seeing her again. I took a cab from the airport straight to her house. Barb opened the door and directed me to Holly's bedroom. "She's waiting for you," Barb said, smiling and winking. By June, I had moved in with Holly and Barbara. I was there almost every night, so when my lease ended, I didn't renew it. This saved me a lot on rent, although I insisted on contributing to household expenses. I sent my daughters to visit in mid-June after school ended, giving them a week to relax before spending Father's Day with me in North Carolina. Holly bonded with them instantly, taking them out for fun activities while I was at work. Every night, Karen and Wendy would tell me how much fun they were having and ask when I would propose. I confided that I already had the ring and was just waiting for the right moment. They loved being in on the secret. We had many tears when the girls left at the end of June. I hoped they could visit again before school started in August, but it wasn't guaranteed. The next planned visit was Thanksgiving. I wanted to visit them in Texas, but with work and Holly's upcoming delivery, I wasn't sure if that would work out. We decided to celebrate the 4th of July at Tim's party. When we arrived, Tim greeted us by name, and I realized for the first time that he and Holly knew each other. We didn't get to talk much, but he congratulated Holly on the baby. I went to get food for us, knowing Holly's appetite had increased. As I loaded my plate, Tim approached me. "You didn't tell me you were dating Holly." "I didn't know it mattered," I replied. "I didn't know you knew each other." "She's a friend of a friend. She came to some parties last year, including a Halloween party." He looked thoughtful, so I asked, "What's going on, Tim?" "How far along is she?" he asked. "About 8 months." "Why?" "Do you remember the Halloween party?" "Not much, I was still drinking then." "Why?" "I saw you go into a spare bedroom with Holly that night. She was dressed as Wonder Woman with a dark wig and a mask." I paused, remembering that night. "Okay, let's say you're right. So what?" "Sam, this could be your baby." Tim's words hit me hard. Holly and I hadn't discussed our pasts much. It was time to do that. I set the food aside and found Holly. Seeing the look on my face, she became worried. "Sam, what's wrong?" she asked as I sat her down. "Holly, I never asked about how you got pregnant. I thought it was your business, but now I feel I need to ask." "I've always considered it my business." "Why do you need to know? Do you trust me, Holly?" "Completely, Sam, with my life. I promise I'll explain, but first, can you tell me what happened?" She paused, then continued. "Terry had broken up with me a few months before. We'd been together for years, and he kept saying he didn't need a marriage certificate to commit. He left me for a 20-year-old blonde with fake bosoms. It was devastating." "What did you do?" "Some women get promiscuous to prove their desirability. I withdrew. I ignored people and became very depressed. My mom eventually pushed me to do something, so I agreed to go with friends to Tim's Halloween party. I'd met Tim before, but didn't really know him. He was okay with me coming because my friends had told him what happened. I didn't drink much, but I was pretty drunk. There was this guy at the party, and I was pretty needy, and we ended up in one of the bedrooms. He's the father of my baby. I'm sorry, Sam, I never wanted to tell you about this." "It's okay, Holly, I understand, but this has a point. Are you sure he's the father? Was there anyone else around that time?" She looked curious but answered, "No, Sam, I haven't been with anyone else since Terry broke up with me until our first time together." "What did this guy look like?" "I don't really know. He was taller than me and in good shape. We were all in costumes and masks." "What kind of costume? Sam, why does this matter?" "Please, Holly, it's important." He was wearing a Scottish costume with a loose white shirt and a kilt. He had a beret and a set of kids' plastic bagpipes. I showed her a picture on my phone. "Did he look like this?" Her eyes widened and she jumped up. "This is him. Why do you have his picture?" "Babe, I needed to be sure before I said anything." "What are you sure about?" "Holly, the person in this picture is me." She looked stunned and collapsed into a chair. "Tim took a picture of me at the party last year. Holly, I think the baby you're carrying is mine." She stared at me, then looked down at her stomach and back up to me. Is it your baby?" "Looks like it." "Oh my God, Sam, wishes really do come true." "What?" I asked, confused. "Since I met you, I wanted it to be your baby, not some random stranger's. I know that didn't matter to you, and that's one of the reasons I love you so much, but I wanted it to be our baby in every way. And now it is." "Oh, Sam, I'm so happy." Holly and I got married at the courthouse a few weeks before Ashley Barbara Beckman was born. After Holly recovered from childbirth, we threw a big party. Barbara surprised everyone by marrying one of the firm's partners and retiring to travel in an RV. She confided in me that she was waiting for Holly to decide on her next steps. Eventually, she narrowed down her dating pool to one person. With nothing tying us to North Carolina but my job, we moved to Texas to be closer to my daughters. I landed a better-paying job thanks to my experience with Tim, allowing Holly to stay home full-time with our growing family. During my time in North Carolina, Tim didn't settle down with anyone long-term. Back in Texas, after 2 years, we attended a wedding where we met a bride we didn't know, By the time I returned to Austin, Karen was starting college at UT, and Wendy was finishing high school. She had options for college, and I supported her decisions. Pauline and Dave hit a rough patch, possibly due to trust issues stemming from Pauline's past infidelity. It coincided with Karen leaving for college, leading Dave to have more free time. While I didn't dwell on their problems, part of me saw it as karma.